Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. As the title screen suggests, we're talking stop ghosting your marketing, how to get on top of your self-promotion. And I am here with Mel. Mel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Melissa Lohr. I'm an agency growth strategist and also host of the podcast Agency Darlings, and super excited to be here and dive into this conversation.
Yeah, me as well. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Rachel. I work for Skid Social, which is a social media management platform that lets you plan, schedule, analyze your content all in one place. And yeah, super excited to be having this chat today. Thanks again, Mel, for being here and all of our attendees for being here as well. And we'd just like to kick it off by actually throwing it to you, everyone who's in the chat. We'd love to know what your biggest roadblock is when it comes to marketing your own agency. We all have our roadblocks or our mental blocks, whatever you want to call them. Super curious to know what yours are. Mel, I don't know if you want to kick us off. If you going out on your own and kind of running your own thing. I guess what was your first and initial hesitation when it came to like posting that first piece of self-promotional content?
Yeah, I think it was just like being comfortable putting myself out there to start with. I had worked under someone else and within a bigger agency. So I was used to creating content, but on behalf of other people or on behalf of an agency brand. And doing it for yourself is just, it's an adjustment. It feels like you're exposing yourself, and it's a little bit, you just feel like you're going to be judged. So, if anyone, I don't know if anyone listening can relate to that, but I've pretty much seen every roadblock there is when it comes to what stops agencies from doing their own marketing and founders from creating their own content. So you're all in good company, and whatever your reason is, you're not alone. It's probably super common. So
Yeah.
maybe I don't know if everyone's super comfortable sharing, but you're in good company. Um, and as you know, someone who is an agency growth strategist, I work with agencies a lot. Most agencies rely on referrals when it comes to their business and growth. And I want to share a couple of statistics when it comes to the importance of content. And then we'll kind of talk through why relying on referrals is not a great strategy in the long term for growing your business. But the first stat is 88% of B2B decision makers say thought leadership enhances their perception of an organization. And this is really clearly influencing how they're making decisions. So if you're not out there putting content out there, you're missing an opportunity to build trust with the decision makers that are potentially, interested in hiring you. The next one is 62% of B2B buyers consume 3 to 7 pieces of content before speaking with a salesperson. And as someone who's a sales expert, this is really important because by the time those buyers come to you, they're much warmer leads and they've built trust and rapport with you through your content. So you have to work a lot less hard as a salesperson to convert them than you do when it's purely a cold, even if it's a referral or someone who just kind of came across your website on Google, you're not going to have as easy of a time as you would had they been engaging with your content.
Yeah, I just want to pause on that one because I think that's
Yeah.
such an important one to remember, isn't it? Especially if you're just starting this sort of self-promotional journey. Because I think like that first piece of content or even the first 10 pieces of content feel like a massive deal. And you kind of think if nothing comes of them, it's such an easy trap to be like, well, nothing came of like those first 5. Oh, there's no point in this. But the fact that like, not everyone will see every piece of your content. Like any single person might only see sort of 1 in 3 potentially.
Yeah.
And so the fact that they then on top of that have to see you 3 to 7 times potentially to engage, it's just so worth like keeping on going past that initial flurry of content that you might produce.
Totally. And I'll also say the lurkers are the ones that actually are the ones that end up being leads, not the ones that are not the people that are engaging with your content. So I have a lot of clients that will be like, I got, I'm not getting a lot of visibility, and it's just the algorithm is tricky. All the algorithms, they're all different depending on the platform, but don't just because someone's not engaging doesn't mean people aren't seeing and lurking and digesting. So your content's still working for you. The last one is LinkedIn generates 80% of B2B social media leads, making it significantly more effective than other platforms. Not that this is a competition, but because we're having a conversation with agencies and professional services, if you're not on LinkedIn and producing content there, it's a big missed opportunity. But yeah, I mean, it's really clear here that strategic content isn't just about awareness. It actually directly influences who chooses to work with you and can positively impact your pipeline and the kinds of people you're attracting. And because I hear so much that I feel like for agencies, it's a big point of pride to say we're 100% referral based. And I don't want to take that away from people. It's always a good sign if you're getting referred. It speaks to the quality of your work. But I want to highlight some of the downsides of relying exclusively on referrals because it does eventually hurt your growth. One of them is you have no control over the timing or the quality of that lead. So what I hear a lot from agencies is I'm going through a really slow season. And if you're referral dependent, you can't do anything about that. There's no control you have over the fact that you're not getting referrals. And that becomes a problem when you have a team, when you have expenses and you need to, make sure your cash flow is coming through.
Mm-hmm.
The second is referrals are always based on the past. So past clients are going to refer people from your past and based on your past pricing, based on your past positioning. So what a lot of my clients run into is when they're shifting to a more premium clientele, or they're changing niches, or they're focusing on a new industry, and they're like, where are all the premium clients? And I'm like, well, you need to develop a network with premium clients. If your network is you started your business and you were working with a bunch of local businesses, small businesses, and now you're looking to work with Fortune 500 companies, like those small businesses aren't going to refer you to Fortune 500 companies. You need to build new connections. So I think those are some of the reasons where, like, when I see people say like we're 100% referral dependent, I get a little cautious of, that will stunt your growth at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And it like you say, having a business that is sort of fueled by referrals is such a testament to your skill and your, I guess, like the way that you've built rapport and trust with your customers. But yeah, you've got to look ahead as well. And even just having more than one source of new clients is always so important. So I think that's such a good point about the forward-looking aspect of content as opposed to the sort of backward dredging technique of referrals.
Exactly. And hey, if you get great referrals, great, but why not have other ways you're generating leads so that you're not dependent on referrals? So some of the reasons I love content as a way to attract and get new clients is it really gives you complete control over quality and lead flow. So you have full control over what content you're putting out there to attract what kind of people. You can speak directly to the type of clientele you're looking to attract and the problems they're facing. And you can also decide how much energy to put into, if someone's engaging with your content that you really want to work with, you can reach out. So it's the complete opposite. You have full control. The second is it's a complete reflection of where you're at today. Anything you're posting is going to reflect your current positioning, your current pricing, your current ideal client. So it's not keeping you stuck in the past. It's helping move you forward. And then as we highlighted with the statistic around, the couple pieces of content that these decision makers are digesting before reaching out, the content really helps shorten your sales cycle because those people have probably been watching you for a couple months through your content before they reach out to you. And when they reach out, they're bought in and ready. As opposed to referrals, you don't really know where they're at in their process. They might not have been aware of you. They meet you for the first time. They need to go talk to 5 other people. They might not come back for a few months. So content's your like shortcut through the sales process. to when people reach out, they know what they're reaching out about and pretty prepared to work with you.
Yeah.
Any builds on that, Rach, before I go into a case study example?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that sales pipeline is such an important one, isn't it? It's just the fact that like you're not gonna, or you're a lot less likely to get in a conversation with someone that like looks really promising, and then you invest all this time into meetings and consultations only to realize that actually you're on completely different pages about like what the right strategy should be or what your value is. It's just like I don't think that can be underestimated, just the fact that you've warmed them up and that they feel like they know you and they know what you're all about before you invest your time into a conversation, because those conversations are that they're a big drain, just of time and your resource, but also just your mental energy as well. You don't want to be having like all of these initial consultations and calls only for them to go nowhere. So I think that just, I guess I just want to like underline and highlight that point. It's such a valuable one.
And most creatives are not natural salespeople. They're most of them are introverted. So being on that sales call, doing the song and dance, the pitch is really uncomfortable. Yeah. And if that's you, the best way to avoid that is by having content. And then who shows up to those sales calls? Those are the people that are like your biggest fans. And you really don't have to work very hard. You can kind of sit back knowing you've proven yourself through your content, and you can just have a good conversation and learn more about them at that point. So lots of benefits. I do want to like share a case study for one of my clients who content was pretty transformational for her in terms of growth. I started working with her about a year ago. She runs a branding agency, and their specialty is really in positioning, tone of voice, messaging. And for most of her business, which was about 10 years old, she was relying on referrals from her network. And she was kind of finding herself stuck at this 400K threshold for revenue. And when we looked at her business, we looked at, she was working with a variety of clients, some startups and friends of friends, and then she was working for big Fortune 500 companies on the other hand. And, one of the challenges for her in growing and scaling is that she wasn't able to have, one project management system. She wasn't able to produce content for one audience because she was working with such a variety of people, and it was really holding her back. And once we clarified and chose who her audience was and really defined a niche for her agency, and then we were able to create content around that niche. We knew exactly what their pain points were. We could focus on that in terms of content. She quickly grew her authority on LinkedIn. She saw that her name was kind of top of mind for people because she was popping up more. She was getting bigger ticket projects, which allowed her to turn away some of the smaller projects that weren't a fit. And she hit within a year $1 million, so more than 2x to revenue. And I'm especially proud of that because she's become one of the 2% of women-owned businesses that hit 7 figures. So all of this to say, content played a huge role, and the only reason her content was so strong was because she had clarity on who she was speaking to. And I think you have to know your audience, and you have to get really specific on what, their mindset, their day-to-day pain points, how you can potentially solve their problems, and speak to that through your content. Mm-hmm. And so without, that shift, I don't think she would have 2x plus her revenue. So I think it's a great case for anyone who's like, I'm fully referral reliant right now and I feel stuck. This is an opportunity to invest in clearly going after an audience and using content as a vehicle to get you more exposure with that audience and build more trust.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's such a powerful case study. And I think it backs up all of those stats you were kind of like speaking to before. And I'm curious to know this client of yours, did she have any major, like we were talking about roadblocks at the beginning, was there anything that she was just like quite resistant to or hesitant, ahead
Yeah.
of starting this content journey?
Yeah, a lot of the ones we talked about, she was very uncomfortable putting herself out there. But back with me as a coach, I was like, come on, let's just do it. And she did get more comfortable after, a couple goes, then she didn't think about it as much. It's like when you've only posted once or twice, you put so much weight on those posts. And then when you're in the habit of doing it, you're not as emotionally attached to it. So I think just getting it out there, it was part of her overcoming it, and then seeing the response she would get, getting a DM from someone she never thought she'd have the opportunity to hear from. Like that was all so encouraging to her. The other big barrier for her was time. But some of the decisions she made in terms of her internal project management freed up time so she could write. And then we worked together on some of the things you're about to talk through in terms of batching content and making writing more efficient. So she was able to overcome it. But yeah, it's initially she was definitely afraid to start that process. It felt like, I think what I hear a lot from women in particular is, I don't want to be salesy.
Yeah.
Creatives often say that because they're not like traditionally businessy people. And it's not salesy to share your ideas.
No.
People want to hear them. And I've had people reframe this for me. Like, you are not inconveniencing someone by giving them advice. That's
Yeah.
something they want. And if they don't want it, they'll ignore it. But think of it as like, I'm helping someone by sharing this content, this piece of advice, not I'm trying to take something from them. You're actually giving them something if it's good content.
Yeah, completely. Well, yeah, like that case study you just shared is such a testament to the power of content, but potentially a few people sitting on this webinar are kind of thinking like, it sounds great, I really want to do it, I just can't because of all of these different reasons. And these are a few that we suspected might be at play in people's minds, but just because they're incredibly common. So we'll dive into each of these one by one and just give you some like tricks and just kind of even just mindset shifts that can sort of help you shift forward and just shake off some of these sort of scripts and barriers that you have in your head. And the first one, and I think this is a really, really common one for agency owners, and it's, I don't have time. My clients are my priority. I've worked really hard to get those clients. If I don't perform for them, they'll drop me. All of these fears, and all so valid. And of course, your clients are really important. But that doesn't mean there's not a way around this. And as Mel alluded to earlier, this obvious solution for this one, and in my opinion, if you're really busy, like the most efficient solution is just that batch creation. And this might look different for different people, but essentially what we mean by batch creation is setting aside some time, either like at the start of every month or maybe the end of every week, sitting down, thinking about your content, producing it all at once, and then scheduling it in, and then just like not really thinking about it again until the next week rolls around. Is this something you've done for yourself and you've advised people to do, Mel?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I'm actually right now, I've tested, it depends on the season I'm in, but right now I batch like 3 months at a time. I do like a whole quarter in one session. And then, because I have a lot of old content I can repurpose. But the advice I give to my clients is, there's a couple things. One is, do it on a day where you are not, to your point, like in your client's business. There has to be a day of the week where you do more stuff for your business. Do it on a day like that so that you're not trying to write while getting pinged on Slack, while getting, you're on a Zoom call. Like, there's just too much distraction. So I think Fridays are great days for most people. Block a day out and like create an awesome playlist that makes you excited to sit and jam out and write and, create videos or whatever form of content you're doing. But like, try to make it fun, like enjoy the process instead of feeling like anything in running a business. If you're going to go into it with like, I really don't want to do this, it's just going to suck all the fun out of it. And the output's not going to be great. Like, you want your content to feel inspired when people read it. So you should be in an inspired place when you're creating it. So yeah, I think find a day where you're in like a good mindset. If you have to get out of your house or out of the office to do that, find a space that inspires you, have a good playlist. And in terms of like how much content to produce, do what feels good to you. Sometimes I'm batching for a month, sometimes I'm batching for a quarter. It just depends on, where I'm at. But yeah, I think batching is so important to get it out, get it scheduled so you don't have to think about it. It doesn't take up headspace. And then to remove the emotional attachment of, oh my God, did people like this post today? Was it good? When it's scheduled, you're not, you can think about it and reflect on it after, not like during, and waste energy and time on that.
Yeah, totally. And I think like it's so funny, isn't it? Like when you think about the process of posting a piece of content, I personally think it is so much scarier to go into Instagram and like put up a reel or something and then hit post now compared to if I'm in a scheduling tool and I just hit, like I'm scheduling that for 2 weeks time. I'm like not even thinking about it, I'm not worried about it. That hesitancy kind of evaporates, which I think is really important in terms of overcoming that imposter syndrome or whatever it is you want to call it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point too. I've told my clients that some of my best posts that I wrote in like the heat of the moment, like feeling passionate about a topic, had I posted it that day, I probably would have like second guessed myself and like, but when you're scheduling in advance, it doesn't feel so, you're just like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to put this. And those are the posts that tend to get like the best response, the best leads, because I was so, impassioned about the topic and not holding myself back, thinking, I hope people like this, or I want a good response. But yeah, you have to remove yourself from those response anyway, because a lot of it's vanity metrics and it's not always a great indication of like the result you're getting. From your business at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's so true. In case there are some people on here that haven't used a scheduling tool before and are kind of like, what are you talking about? I took the liberty of recording a little demo, very, very quick, just to help you kind of visualize what that process of scheduling might look like. So I'll play that for you now. So this is the Skid social interface that you'll see when you first log into the platform. And once you've batch created your content, this is a super easy way to just publish it all in one place without having to switch between all of the different social media platforms and the different scheduling software that some of them do or don't offer. You can just do it all from Skid Social, get to know it really well, and the process will become really, really quick. So I'll give you a quick little overview of how that might look like in your day-to-day. So for example, let's say you've just finished batch creating a bunch of your content and now you want to schedule it to a few different platforms at once. Like you've made some content that would be good for Instagram and would also be good for LinkedIn. So this is what you'll see when you go to create a post. And you can see just here that you'll select which platforms you want to publish on. So get rid of the ones that maybe you're not working with right now. Let's just say it's Instagram and LinkedIn. All you do is you'll have like an image or a video or something that you want to share. Simply upload it into the library. You can actually see that this is a piece of media I've already got in there. And then pop your caption in. You can sort of see a post preview as well if you'd like. If you've already written your caption, pop that in. You can see exactly what that will look like. And then obviously, like a really good case of how you might want to adapt something slightly for LinkedIn versus Instagram is that on Instagram, you can't include a link in the caption, and on LinkedIn you can. And so you can see down here, I have a little instruction to sign up with the link in our bio for Instagram, obviously talking about this webinar that you are all now at. On LinkedIn, it would make way more sense if I just included a link. So you can see over here, I've got my two little icons, and tweaking that caption is as simple as just clicking on LinkedIn, toggling to customize LinkedIn post, and then just typing sign up here and then popping in whatever link I have to sign up via. Once I'm happy with the content I've produced, it's as simple as either marking it as approved if it's just me working on it, or if you want someone else to review it, you can put ready to review and that person will get a notification. But let's, for the purposes of this demonstration, say it's already approved, say when I want it to be scheduled for, and let's just say in this hypothetical scenario, it's next Wednesday at 9:25 in the morning. set that up and hit save. Once this is finished loading, I'll be able to go to my calendar and you can see all of the content that I have ready to be scheduled. This calendar is super handy. If I decide all of a sudden I want something to be scheduled on a different day, just simply drag and drop and it will move around. Yes, so I think something like that is just so valuable in terms of taking that mental load off, in terms of, you know, like having to like think about, oh, like what did I schedule for today? I need to post it on Instagram, or I need to go into Instagram and schedule it. It's just like anything you can do to make it feel more smooth is completely worth it, just in terms of like enhancing your consistency along the way. Another major question or hesitation or piece of confusion that people have, and again, totally justifiable, is what platforms should I prioritize? There are so many different platforms to be active on. All of them have different advantages and disadvantages. And on top of that, there are so many different content formats that you can be embracing on each different platform as well. So this question is, like I say, such a valid one. And what makes it so difficult is that the answer will be a little bit different for every different type of business. Now, Mel's already mentioned the particular value of something like LinkedIn when it comes to B2B. And I think it's pretty hard to argue with some of those stats that you put up. But there's a good chance that like a place like Instagram could be really valuable for you as well, or even something like TikTok. So in terms of like that initial confusion around which platforms you should be prioritizing, something that I always say is quite a good tactic at first is create your content. Like obviously you'll have an idea of which platforms you want to try out. Let's say it's LinkedIn and Instagram to start with. So create your content once, post it everywhere that you can, and then analyze the results. And then you can start fishing with the fish are. Like over time, you'll start to see, as Mel said, like you'll get sort of DMs coming in, or you'll get, certain people engaging with your posts that you can see are from the types of companies you want to work for. That's a really, really good sign that that platform is starting to do what you want it to do. But you've got to be posting for a good length of time. I'd almost say a couple of months with this approach, and analyzing those results and just seeing how they're going for you.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think Scad, through like your demonstration, it's easy for you, for, agencies to, create content and then easily test it across different platforms without having, like before I was using Scad, we just had like a Google Doc and slides and Canva. There was just like so many places I was producing content for Instagram and then doing it elsewhere for LinkedIn. And at some point, the volume is just, we don't have the time. So easily like having that toggle between the platforms is so nice, such a nice feature. But yeah, like you were saying, like fish where the fish are, where your clients are spending time and also where they're in a mindset to hire you for what you're doing. Like my clients might be on TikTok at night doom scrolling, but they're not there looking to hire me on TikTok. They're doing that on LinkedIn during the day. So it's just, the more like you have a defined audience and you know where they're spending their time or in the mindset to be shopping for someone like you, that's where I believe in like put effort into where it's working. But I think Scad's a great tool to be able to quickly take one piece of content and maximize it across different platforms to test. Or if you feel like you're not getting a lot from LinkedIn after a while and you want to try something else, it just makes it super easy to repurpose content that way.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I people on this call might be sitting there thinking, but like I already don't even have time to make content. How am I supposed to like analyze all of this? And that's actually something that Sked can help with as well. So our analytics platform, again, this is like a minute long little demo just to show you how you can analyze your results in a more streamlined way. When you're starting a new content strategy, it's super important to check the results of it as you go, so you can double down on what's working really well and then pivot away from anything that might not be serving you. You don't want to be spending time on something that's not working. And this is something that Skid can help you with as well. What you can see here is the analytics portion of the tool. So this will help you see insights for the different content you're posting in terms of how well people are engaging with it, how many people are seeing it, etc. And you can break it down per channel. So here we have the overview page that's obviously showing you all of your accounts, but you can also break it down and just hop into Instagram as well and have a little sniff around, see what content performed best throughout any given week or month or 3-month period, see what needs more help. It's just a really good way of, again, all in the one platform, being able to run your content really efficiently, all the way from planning and scheduling right the way through to analyzing and assessing how that content has gone for you. Yeah, so and then just to move on, I'm aware of the time, so moving on to another really, really common problem. What the hell do I post? Where do I start? I all of a sudden feel like I've got nothing of value to add. Which is of course not true. If you've got clients and you've got a skill set and people are paying you to do your thing, you've definitely got value that you can add and content that you can share. And the biggest thing, I think, the biggest thing you've got to figure out is just how you ideate that content and how you sort of, I don't know, find a way to package it up and ship it out in all these little bite-sized pieces. And I think Mel and I both have ideas for how to sort of start this process. And one of mine is there's 3 questions that I ask myself when I'm looking to create content. And one of them is, what has worked for me before? How can I respin that with like a different topic or a different case study or a different problem clients are having, something like that? Who's nailing content in my niche? What are they doing really well? How are they sharing content? What are they talking about? It's not about copying them, but it's looking to them for inspiration and then kind of using their same format or something like that to share your own expertise. And then the third one is, how did I achieve my last great result for a client? And simply sharing your process in a case study. And those 3 questions could spawn tens to hundreds of different content pieces if you're just thinking about them lots. And I'm sure, Mel, you've got some great ideas for content too.
Yeah, I love that framework. I love those simple 3 questions. They're easy to remember. I also tell my clients, like, you have all the content you need in your client presentations, in the conversations you're having on sales calls. What are the questions that are coming up often, or what are the pain points they're experiencing? You're already giving that advice. You just want to turn that into some form of content you can share publicly. So try whatever system you need to have. Like, I have a notes app, and when I get off a sales call, if there was something someone asked me that I was like, ooh, really smart question, I'll just leave that prompt in my notes app. And when I do my batching, I'll sit down and answer all those prompts that I left for myself over the course of a month or 2 months. So yeah, I don't think we need to stress about starting and like creating something from new. We have it. We just have to capture it, as Rachel was saying. I'm also a big fan, and I hope most people listening are now leveraging AI to help, not to say we're using AI to write content, but if just to get you from blank piece of paper to like something you can then edit and rewrite in your own words. You can take some of those prompts you're saving or topics, like I want to talk about how tech is rapidly changing, and ask it to like give you 3 different versions. And then you can take that and rewrite it in your own words with your own point of view. But I find that helps get the juices flowing. And then once you've done a few, you're like, okay, now I could do this for an hour and I'll pump out 10 different posts.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a muscle, right? Like the more you exercise it, the more sort of like quickly and efficiently you can spit out those content ideas.
Exactly.
This final hesitation is a big one, and it's very, very valid, but this is what I'm going to call the tough love portion of this webinar. The problem is I'm nervous to put myself out there. Everyone I know is on LinkedIn. Every single colleague I've ever worked with is on LinkedIn. People from my personal life are on Instagram. I don't want to be salesy in front of them. It's embarrassing. They only know me from school or whatever. I totally identified with this, but I'm not sure if you agree, Mel, but I think there's only one way to think about it, and that there's no way over it, there's no way under it. You've just got to go through it. Practice makes perfect, and the more you do it, the less scary it will be, and the better you will get at it.
Yeah, totally. Done is better than perfect. Also, we're all the main character of our own life, but nobody is paying attention to our stuff more than we are. So I hear a lot from clients like, "Oh, I don't want whatever." No one's obsessing. Someone might be scanning your content for 3 seconds. So don't sacrifice your ability to attract and win new clients because you're afraid that your neighbor might see something you posted and judge you for it. We have to like kind of let our egos go there. And I promise the first few times after you've done it, you will see return and you're going to be motivated to do more of it. So it's just the hardest in the beginning, and try to just like let go of whatever judgment you're putting on yourself, and remember that everyone's in their own bubble, their own life, worried about their own critique and everyone else looking at them. So no one's really paying attention that closely to what you're doing, except the people that want to hire you.
Exactly. And I think it's just important to remember, it's like anything, right? Everyone was a beginner once. Everyone probably felt silly when they put their first thought leadership piece on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
You'll feel silly until it pays off, and that will happen quickly, and then you'll feel great. So it's just a matter of pushing through that initial hesitation and leaping off the cliff. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but you know what I mean. Taking a leap of faith.
Yes, exactly. Take the leap of faith, take the risk.
Yeah.
It's worth the reward.
Yeah. And I think this is a nice little, we put this at the beginning of the presentation as well, but I think Mel contributed this to the webinar, and it really resonated with me. So this is the one thing to take away from this webinar.
Yeah, just be strategic in what you're putting out there. And I think, especially in this world of like lots of AI generated everything, being original and having your own point of view and being human, and, not worrying so much that like, will everyone agree with me? Actually, the best content is stuff that is not fully agreeable to everyone. But your people will find you that way. And it takes time, but you'll build confidence as you do it, and you'll get clients this way. And so, it's really worth doing, and leveraging tools like Sched that can make the whole process easier and more efficient is so important.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all about ways that you can make it easier, right? Like you've got enough going on. I think that's one thing that's been present throughout this whole webinar, is that everyone is so busy. But this is important if you're wanting to achieve those goals of getting those clients and building your revenue and all of those great things that you want to do with your agency. So I guess we've got a few minutes left. If anyone has any specific questions about content or about processes for Mel or myself, then feel free to ask. As you're thinking about them, it's worth mentioning as well that after this presentation, as you might have seen on the invite, we'll be sending you a month of content ideas that Mel has contributed. They're fantastic. They're very malleable, and I think they could work for almost any niche. So expect to see that. I believe it will be sent to your inbox after this wraps up. And yeah, if you're struggling to get started, I would really just encourage you to look at that list of ideas and just give it a go. Just give it a go for a month, and I can guarantee after a month, you'll have seen at least one encouraging result.
Yeah. And that framework you can use every month if you wanted. They're just kind of prompts to inspire posts, but you could use that forever. So it's more than 30 days of content technically, but at least 30 days to start.
Endless ideas of content.
Yes. Yeah. Any questions? It doesn't look like anyone has any questions, but or any, if anyone has, like, if you've used other scheduler platforms and you have pain points around what hasn't worked for you, or if you have never heard of Sched and you have questions on Sched, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Lauren just asked our thoughts on organic versus paid. Do you have thoughts on that, Rachel, or I can jump in on it?
Yeah, well, we've probably both got thoughts on it. I think they can work really well together hand in hand, and it just totally depends on where your business is at. I think like starting with organic is obviously a really great strategy because it costs you nothing apart from your time, and it will give you a really good sense check of what's resonating. Like I kind of think about it like lighting lots of little fires and then seeing what catches, and then you'll get an idea for what resonates, what sort of brings results. And if you do decide that one day you want to scale up and you've got loads of clients and you want to pour some budget into some paid, you'll have a really good instinct for what content is going to work. It's not to say they're identical, but organic content is a really, really great training ground for getting your messaging right, getting your sort of formats right, and that kind of thing. I don't know if you had something to add to that, Mel.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think you should be doing paid until you've been doing consistent organic content. You know what works. The other thing I think that's really key is you should know you want to be niched if you're doing paid content. Like you want to be speaking to a very specific audience at that point. So if you're still building your agency or a business and you're in a space where you're like open and working with lots of different people, I don't think paid is the right path. You're just not going to get as much bang for your buck as doing organic. So yeah, I think grow your organic, and then once you know what works, you can amplify that with paid and attract more leads that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. But great question, Lauren. And it's one that I think a lot of people like paid is it's a really tempting method, I suppose, to use because it's sort of a lot of these platforms promise the world. And they can deliver it if you have a great campaign. But yeah, really, really important to be informed going in so you don't just burn a lot of your important budget.
Yeah, totally.
Well, if there's no more questions, I guess we'll wrap up here. But some of the slides aren't swapping anymore, but that's okay. What we'll mention is that if you did want to start out, there we go. If you did want to start out with try a platform like Scared, we have a trial available. We can send a link over to you if you just want to kind of like take the 30 ideas of content that we're going to give you and go all in and kind of like get on the scheduling software and give it a good go. Yeah, there is a free trial, so feel free to give it a whirl. And of course, I will give the Agency Darlings podcast a bit of a plug as well, because if you enjoyed this and you are after more of this kind of advice, then Mel has some really great insights to share as you've seen.
Yeah, there was one more question from Jen. With so much noise online, how do you go about differentiating yourself and your content from the crowd? Really good question. I'll kick this one off and then Rach, add any builds. But I think be true to yourself. And I don't know if that feels like a really generic response, but talk in your voice with your nuances. Like the way I write on LinkedIn is how I talk. It's not grammatically correct. I just try to be myself because, again, you're attracting your people, and anyone that's attracted to your content is going to meet you. And if you're trying to be something else through your content, when they talk to you, there's just not going to be a fit. So I just encourage people to really double down on being themselves, be inspired by lots of things out there, but ultimately translate it in a way that feels good to you. And your people are going to be attracted to the way you're communicating your message. So I think a lot of times we're overthinking how it's going to come across and what's everyone going to think. Like do what feels natural and good to you, and that will attract the right audience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this phrase has come up in this webinar earlier, but it's one of my favorites, and it's that whole done is better than perfect. You agonize over posting and you kind of like it means you're only posting like once every 2 weeks. You're just saying goodbye to opportunities to learn. And there will inevitably be some pieces of content that you put out there that just flop, and that's totally fine. The great thing about a piece of content that flops is that no one saw it. So, so you know, it's a failure, but really only you know about it. So, so just really just try and fight through any of that hesitancy, because the more you post, the more you're going to learn. And as Mel says, the more you're going to find your unique voice. and then eventually you'll find your crowd and the people that resonate with your content, and people will come to know what to expect from you.
I also think in the world of AI, you can differentiate simply by being really human about your content, because
100%.
everyone's starting to be inundated, and you can start to see truly like just AI generated content. So I think over time, just the people that are truly leaning into their own individual thoughts and writing, you know, as a person and not as a machine, you know, you'll stand out significantly with most content being completely AI generated. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well, just like one point to finish on with that too, is that even though platforms might change, and like who knows where LinkedIn will be in 10 years time, or what TikTok will be doing, or what's happening on Instagram, the ability to communicate and to communicate your thoughts is always going to be a relevant skill. The platforms will change, but communication never will. So yeah, like don't feel like, oh, well, what's the point if platforms are always changing, algorithms are always changing? The skills you're developing will be timeless. So well, thank you so much, Mel, for hosting with us, and thank you for everyone that came along today. We'll be following up with a recording in case there's anything else you want to go back and watch again, or any tidbits you wanted to absorb, and also as well as that month's worth of content, and a link to a free trial and a link to the podcast as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for that email, and yeah, thank you so much for coming along.
Thanks everyone for joining. And if you have follow-up questions, feel free to DM the Sked team or DM me at Agency Darlings. We are happy to keep giving you advice and supporting.
Cool. Thank you so much.